Royal Caribbean stock has performed pretty well over the last 5 years. It's slightly underperformed the S&P 500. That shouldn't be all too surprising considering for quite a few of the years COVID was happening and they were basically not able to do anything, right? COVID hit this industry very hard. You can see the drop off. But it fell to a quarter of what it was, 133 to 24-ish. So just absolutely destroyed. They had a decent run up in 2021. Most stocks did. Came back down again. And then basically since the lows in 2022, they've performed very, very, very well. But obviously we're going to talk about this stock moving forward and not necessarily what it's done in the past. But before that, let's look at the 10-year chart. So they basically 3x'd over the last 10 years. So if you bought exactly 10 years ago, you would have still probably slightly overperformed the S&P 500, as the S&P 500 hasn't quite gone up that percent over the last 10 years or so. However, it also pays an okay dividend, right? That's smarter than the S&P 500 average, but it's still fine. So what do you think of this stock moving forward? Well, one thing that comes to mind, usually when you think of tech, right, there's just some riskiness to it. It depends on the stock, right? There's certainly some that are more stable than others. However, if we're looking at high PE risky stocks, high PE associated with risk stocks, tech stocks, those are going to fall more during a recession, right? Generally, stocks that are more considered value, I don't know, like Procter & Gamble, maybe something like Caterpillar, depending on the type of recession, right? It hits certain areas harder. Unfortunately for cruise stocks, right, because Royal Caribbean is a cruise, assuming most of you know that, but if you don't, there you go. Royal Caribbean, with cruises, during recessions, they also get hit really hard, right, because cruises are a luxury generally. You know, when you look at things that cut out of a budget, when finances are tighter, cruises are probably one of the first things to get cut out, right? You can't cut out food, you can't cut out toilet paper, you can't cut out toothpaste, you can't cut out, kids' shoes. You can cut out cruises pretty easily. So, unfortunately, this stock, although it's not tech, right? Not that every tech is, going to get crushed in a recession. I'm not saying that. However, if you own a bunch of high PE, high growth tech stocks, generally those get really hit really hard during a recession. Unfortunately, this stock isn't really a hedge against that. Right, we can see from 2007 to 2009, it got hit really hard as well, roughly the same as during this. So that is something to consider, right? It's still diversification, right? I'm assuming your portfolio isn't just full of cruise stocks. Maybe it is. Maybe you have Carnival and other ones, right? Maybe that's your thing, but most stock portfolios, it probably isn't. So you still want diversification. And if you're looking for diversification into cruise-centric stocks, this is not a bad one, right? Over the last 10 years, it's overperformed the S&P 500, or roughly, we can just be conservative and say matched it, right? It's one of the more popular ones. It's going to perform well generally in a portfolio. But like I said, the downside of not being very good in a recession, you got to have a strong stomach to hold a stock like this long-term over 5, 10, 20-year period, because you're going to have some dramatic drops and you're going to be like, oh, wow, that does not look good at all. So that's one of my main concerns. However, like I said, I think the stock is generally fairly safe. We got nice for a P of 17, right? You can see that it really has some months that do better than others. But it's growth, right? Every single month here is projected higher, than the expected, right? Both the expected and the actualized, right? So we have the estimate and then the actual. Every single quarter is more. So you're getting good growth, and that shouldn't be surprising. That's probably why you've seen the stock run up so dramatically over the last 6 months. I mean, that's a lot. So you got great growth. Forward P is only 17, so in one sense, you can say it's value, right? This is a value stock because it's valued significantly below the S&P 500 and it's performed well. However, I struggle to really stamp that on it because I think there's usually an association with value stocks that they hold up well during recessions. And I think this stock generally 9 times out of 10 is not going to do well at all during a recession. Maybe even 10 times out of 10. I'm just trying to be conservative there. Yeah, we know they do cruises. You don't need to dive into that. This is actually, I think, the shortest business summary on Schwab I've ever seen. Usually they go all the way down there. So you can read that if you want. Schwab, their 1-year performance, they reiterated that 3 days ago. They think it's going to be a below average performer, although they don't think it's going to do awful. I mean, worse than 68% of stocks. However, most stocks in a given year go up. So a C rating isn't maybe as terrible as it'd be if you're getting like a letter grade, right? 2 stars, narrow economic moat. I think just because they do have some competition, I'd probably agree. I hate the 3 or 0, 3, 10 scaling they sort of give here. I think that's not specific enough, but I would probably put it at narrow, certainly over none, and probably over wide as well. 3 stars buy, long buy. We actually saw the dividend drop significantly, or I think it's expected to drop this next quarter, which is interesting, but not a huge deal unless you're a big dividend guy, but you probably aren't really eyeing this either way if you are. Most people are saying buy, at least analysts. Was that 17 of the 22? The others say hold. So, yeah. If you are eyeing this stock, right, you haven't bought it yet, and you're like, oh, I just need to see if anyone says, is there something I'm missing about it? Probably not. As long as you understand during recessions, probably not going to hold up too well. That'd be my biggest concern. Other than that, this is a solid company. Obviously, clearly, this is not investment advice. However, if you said I was you, and you're like, and I was thinking I wanted to buy it, there's, other than that recession worry, there's nothing too huge about this stock specifically, right? Most people are saying buy. If you own it and you're wondering what to do with it, if you're considering sell it, I don't know, maybe sell off a little bit. That's probably what I would do. But if you're looking for a reason to sell this thing, this probably not. This is a good run company, right? Other than you just want to take profits if you want to do that, right? But do whatever you want, right? If it was me, I would not be concerned about getting out of this thing ASAP. It's a solid company. It's going to do fine over the long term hold, right? Anyways, that's all I got. So if you made it this far, I'd appreciate if you left a like, subscribe, whatever it may be. Helps the channel a lot. Just getting this thing growing. I cover all sorts of stocks on this channel, and you can check out some of the other videos. But anyways, I appreciate all you checking this out. So I'll catch you next time.